I have a confession.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of transparency and being honest and truly authentic to who you are on the inside, I'm a petty fucking bitch. Okay. I was just telling Sybil, and I feel like I just need to be honest with you as well. That like, so I'm playing around on TikTok right now at AE Wellness, come hang out. And I got more joy, not out of creating this like really good workout, like it was cool, but mostly just doing better in views than my brother's ex-girlfriend. Take that, bitch. Whatever it takes. Okay, I need you to know that that's actually, I get my kicks from that. And I have a problem with competition, and I will be speaking to my therapist about it later today.
And if everyone needs to feel better about it, she also lost his cat. So whatever.
Yes, lost and then found. And God bless. Basil is fine. But yes, no, she deserves it.
Totally.
Okay.
All right, guys.
So now you guys know way too much about me.
All right, everyone. We're going to get started. Hi, I'm Sybil Solon. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses. Running your own business, it's hard.
But we are terrible employees, and apparently people too. But it's okay, because we are figuring it out.
I've already figured it all out. But I promise to share everything we know about running getting a six-figure income, and maybe beyond.
Yes, and be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about the fact that a bunch of it totally sucks. But let's get started.
So super true. Yes. Well, welcome back to Skinfessional. On today's show, we are talking about criticism and not taking it personally. We will also be touching upon what we call the stages of criticism receival.
And how to learn from your complaints.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we talked about attrition last week. And I know I took over the conversation to get all my questions answered. And no, I haven't yet set out that survey, but it will happen soon. But we wanted to touch upon another element of attrition because when it's your business and people are leaving and complaining and just, letting you know what's up, it's really hard to separate that from who you are because you and your business are so closely related.
Yeah, we touched on it at the very, very end. And I felt after I listened to the episode again that it needed to be addressed a little bit more because I think a lot of people have feelings about when people leave them. They're like, oh, it's all me and I've done something wrong and et cetera. And it has a lot to do with complaints. You've read your Yelp reviews, your Google reviews, and you thought to yourself, this person hates me and I'm horrible. Or like, fuck that person. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Right. But there's usually so much more going on that we kind of have to dig deep and really get into the heart of it. And so that's really what this episode's going to be about, guys. We're going to get deep into complaints and what Alex coined today, the stages of criticism receival. I love it.
Well, because it's true. It's like, you get that piece of feedback, whether you asked for it or not. Sometimes it comes your way. And then the real question is what do I do with it then?
Right.
So weren't you recently talking to someone about some situation just like this?
Yes, exactly. So I was just talking to a client, one of my business consulting people, about the fact that she had somebody who was essentially a client who told her that she didn't like that she was calling her sweetie and honey. And she's from the South. And she was like, she feels belittled by the fact that she's calling these clients sweetie and honey. And she's like, I just call people that. And she was like, I don't know if I should stop calling them that. I don't know what to do about it. And so we had a really long conversation about whether she should stop, if she has to make the decision for herself, whether she's a person who is a sweetie honey caller, or if she's a person who's like, hey, I want to change that because I am upsetting these clients. So what did we do? We had her send out a survey. And we talked about this
Dun-dun-dun.
last time. Oh my gosh. So she sent out surveys to her customer, and the survey essentially just was like, I love X name and her business, but I don't like, or I do like, they had to pick one or the other, that she calls me honey and sweetie. And the response was about 25% of people did not like it.
Wow.
And so we had to sit down, and I'm like, okay, so now that you've discovered this,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to change that? Is this something that you care
Mm-hmm.
about?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of emotion went on. She's like, how could they not tell me? Why would they not say anything? And I'm like, well, some people will like you, but they just will tolerate stuff, even though it bothers them.
Yeah.
Or they never actually thought about whether it bothered them until they were
Until you
asked.
asked. Yeah.
Right?
I think too, like we were talking before this started about like doubling down when
Mm,
somebody gives you criticism. So this is like not the time to double down. Unless like, I mean, if this is the hill you want to die on, by all means,
right.
power to you. It is your business. You can do whatever you want. But I think that in our field, like we are compassionate healers. Like that's essentially
Yeah.
what we're doing. And part of that is being willing to listen and then deciding if you want to change rather
Yeah.
than just being like, no, it's my way or the highway.
Right. And so I think the hardest thing for her was to decide whether there was a lot of excuse making. She goes, well, but I'm Southern and it's part of who I am. And like, I mean it in a kind and loving way. And, I listened to all of like kind of the excuse making and let it get out of her system. And then I'm like, awesome. Is this who you are? Is this who you want to be? Because 25% of your clients now have told you that they don't like it, and for them, it makes them feel uncomfortable and not who they want to be. So do you
Mm-hmm.
think you can change who you are and not say honey and sweetie to people? Because if you can't, then understand potentially you're going to lose 25% of your clientele.
Right. I mean, there's also the other side of this too, though, that maybe you just don't attract that type of clientele
Exactly.
or you're intentionally trying not to attract that type of
Right.
clientele. So I send out a survey after I go through a launch sequence. And, one of the questions is like, why didn't you decide to join? Or was it something I said or, something like that? And somebody came back and said, well, you talked about how, if being active is who you are and movement is in your DNA. And I don't think that's for me because I just want to be able to like walk around the block.
Right.
And sat with that, thought about it. Because you and I have talked about my copy and like what I'm saying. And like I intentionally made that decision to say that because I have found that working with people who already have that desire to move, even if it's not happening right now, it's
Mm-hmm.
just a more enjoyable experience for me to
Mm,
help them get back to where they were than to help somebody to totally get started. So
yeah.
for me, this was a situation was like, oh, cool. So my marketing is working. I still feel bad because I'm like, I know I could help this person, but if that's a hang up point for them, like that is the flag and the hill that I'm willing to like
Right.
make my claim for.
Well, and once again, and we had that conversation, that person, although you can help them, they're not the person who wants to be helped by you.
Right.
They are not your client.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. Not right now. Right. And
Aspirational.
right. And so this particular conversation with her also went with, you have to make the decision. And we had a business consult where, hey, you have to make a decision where you're at a road, you're at a crossing point. You have now learned something very valuable about yourself. You are either going to lean in to honey and sweetie, and it's going to be who you are. And that's going to be about who you are. It's going to be part of your persona. And this is a persona question. This can be part of who you are. It's part of your persona. You're embracing it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you need to, because you're doing it with intent now, or you're going to be with intent starting to wean off of it.
Right.
Right. And you need to change out either no nicknames, a different nickname. Because when I talked to her about this, I was straight up and I was like, I call people beautiful and gorgeous. And I do that. And I do because often I don't know people's names when I first start. But I also chose beautiful and gorgeous because I also want to push the idea that they are beautiful and gorgeous. So and I made those choices when I made those terms. But you honey and sweetie for some people, I guess, is not what they're looking for.
Well,
you
it's
know?
kind of different too, though. Like Honey and
Yeah.
Sweetie, to me, they fall under the camp of like kiddo, and I'm like, I'm not a
Yeah.
fucking child, so
Right. And they're,
it's, but it's all word choice and intent behind what you're doing.
exactly. So choices were made. And you know what? Her final decision was she's like, I don't think I can undo who I am. It is part of my persona. And so she's like, I'm going to lean into it. And that was her choice.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
the next thing was, then how do you work on the kind of like apology for the people and like couching the this is who I am. I'd like to let people know that if it's offensive to you, please let me know. I'm sorry that you feel that way. If you need help moving on, you can.
Oh, so you coached her to even like,
Yeah.
why not? The non-confrontational ones of us would like to know why we can't just like keep on keeping on, knowing what we know, but not say anything.
Because you asked people what they thought, and to not address it is rude. Alex,
Mm.
you don't like peanut butter. Here's a peanut butter sandwich.
And I would literally be like, "Thank you," and then
Right.
just set
Nope,
it
that's
down.
super rude. It's super rude. It's poor customer service. Right?
Ah! Okay.
But you're asking, so this is how you deal with criticism and complaints. You
Mhm.
address them. You're a business owner, you address them. This is good customer care.
But couldn't you argue, I'm like still gonna fight this,
No.
that it was only 25%. The majority of people, that wasn't a sticking point for them. There was something else.
No, you put it out there. This is what it's about. You put it out there. Hello. So thank you so much for answering my survey. I appreciate it. This is what we've learned. 25% of you apparently are, have found it uncomfortable to be called sweetie and honey. You know what? For all of you who didn't, I appreciate all of you answering my survey. For those of you who did, I want to sincerely apologize if I've offended any one of you. These are the reasons that I use Sweetie and Honey, and I had her give a story about she's grew up in the South with pictures and who she is. This is her persona. This is who she is. This is why. I hope
Mhm.
that you can continue to see me as who I am and understand that I've never meant it in any kind of offensive way. If for any reason that you do continue to find it offensive, please let me know. I will do my best to not call you Sweetie and Honey. If I do, I apologize. It is who I am. It's like when you say like, because she's from Los Angeles now. It's like when you say
Right.
like or dude, right?
I say it all the time.
It's incredibly hard for me. It's just part of my DNA,
Mhm, mhm,
right? But I will do my best because your feelings are important to me,
mhm,
right? For everyone else, I appreciate you. And if for any reason you need to move on, I understand and I will help you find another person. Thank you.
mhm.
Ta-da. So would you feel better about that than just being ignored?
Right. Well, and this was sent to everybody?
This was sent to everyone. That way you're addressing the fact, because it was a blind survey. You don't know who has problems and who didn't have problems. It was sent out to
Oh,
everyone.
oh, okay.
Right. But you also, Alex, if you were sent that survey and you're like, I wonder why I got this survey. Right.
I can see that, yeah.
Right. This also helps people understand that you are trying to better yourself as a business owner.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm also thinking of the I was just like, no, it's really devil's advocate here. No, but I'm not saying that. But like, how interesting is it too? Where I know there are, people who do almost like code switching, right?
Mhm.
And where you speak differently to these people, to these people, to that people, and like also acknowledging the privilege to be like, nope, I don't want to change. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Just interesting.
I mean, I definitely, so speaking of code switching, Sybil Stolen Esthetician code switches a lot. So, I mean, for years, I did not swear. I tell the story all the time that one of my friends, Kelly, came to visit me while I was Sybil Stolen Esthetician. And she was like, I don't know it. Are you okay? Is everything okay here? She thought that something had happened to me because I was so not myself. And it was because
That's
I
funny.
swear so much that she was like,
This is
when
why we get
she'd been
along.
with me, that I had said no swear words and was a completely different person. And I was like, no, this is Sybil Stolen Esthetician. And so you're just not used to me.
Yeah. We've never worked together in a professional capacity.
Right. This is Sybil who smiles all the time, is very sweet, and has a completely different speech pattern. totally true. I have a completely different speech pattern. I smile all the time.
It's so true. It's very true.
Yeah. So then Simple Solon, who's just like, I give no fucks and shut the fuck up. Right. And so
I'm just laughing because this is true.
The response that she got from almost everyone, by the way, a couple things happened. One, people wrote her more responses on Google and Yelp. So she got reviews about, how she had, increased, her business. People were like, her response was, because she put a little review thing that being like, please review me if you've had a good response with me. Right. And so she got reviews. She had 2 people come in and say, I would prefer you try not to say, call me sweetie and honey. Everyone else said nothing to her.
Right. Interesting.
Only 2 people asked her. And she's like, you know what? I've tried my best to do it. And she's like, one person will call me out. She's like, you called me sweetie. She goes, thank you so much. I appreciate you telling me. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I do appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's just about being truthful and honest with people.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. We want our clients to be truthful with us, but also they deserve that in return.
And I will tell you that probably because it was within the time of COVID, that people were just really excited to have some kind of like drama in their lives. That was something different. So people were really excited to talk about something.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, it's so true.
And so they were really, she's like, people were really excited to just come in and be like, so what's going on that like happened that like, why did you say like, what happened?
They're like drama with someone I know.
She's like, the gossip was great to talk about.
That's so funny. Okay, but so let's bring that back to like the learning moment that we can do here. So like, what do you do when this is your term, find disservice in your service?
Yes. So sometimes, and I always talk about this, sometimes if you look at your services, guys, there's always to talk about disservice in your service. But disservice in your service is when you look at your services and you look at what you're doing and you realize that there is a giant gaping hole in what you're doing, and somebody either has pointed it out to you or you notice it yourself. Alex, have you ever discovered that you have a disservice in your service on your own?
Not on my own, no.
Okay. Has anybody ever pointed one out to you?
Yes, they have.
Give me an example.
People, so I was having some attrition in membership, and I send out like a check-in every 90 days. And someone was like, I needed more help. I really wish there was another opportunity to have some like more one-on-one time with you.
Okay, good. So, and you were like, okay, so I have this gap. And so you could have been like, that's great. There's this one person asking for something and whatever, and you ignore it. Right?
Yeah, have done that before too.
Right? But instead you're like, okay, I could take this on and know that one person's comment often means that a lot of people want the same thing and aren't asking for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I was going to say too, this is also, let's talk about the stages of criticism receivable, because at first I'm just like, well, fuck you. Like, who gave you the right to give me any feedback? And then I'm like, oh, right. I asked. Right. And then there's definitely some like sadness and regret of all the people you could have saved but didn't.
Right.
And also it's hard to not take it personally because it's your business, Right. And then I'm pretty sure I called you.
Yes.
I was like, am I crazy? Like, how would this work? Like, where is the gem of feedback coming out of this that I can actually put to good use?
Right. And that is exactly what happens. That is the stages of criticism, right? Right there. You have the like, you're like, I don't.
First, you're like,
yeah, you're like, I don't think so. People are stupid, whatever. Right. And that's just the pushback that you're immediately going to have. And then you're probably going to have like, it's all me. I'm stupid. Nothing's right. I hate everyone.
Terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
And then hopefully if you are an enlightened human being, you'll go to a friend, you'll dial a friend and be like, do I need to have a conversation about this? Am I missing something? And that person will give you feedback, which will then have you have introspection and make good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen with disservice is you will do a couple things. You'll either make the decision that you should contact your clientele. And sometimes we talked about this in the last episode. You're going to go to like a smaller core group and kind of ask them, be like, hey, I had some questions. And Alex always has a good one where she's like, guys, I was thinking about, or
Yeah.
right, he goes, I was wondering, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that something that would be like cool? What do you think?
Right. I was wondering, I was, and you can straight up be honest sometimes with that core. You're like, so somebody asked me this. Is anybody feeling the same way?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Usually those people are people you trust. Right. You can also just implement the thing. If you're like, that's a really good idea. I thought about that. It is a good idea. I felt stupid when I first heard about it because it was a good idea.
Yeah. Also done that.
Right. So a lot of times understand that we have that initial like pushback because we're like, no, because it's holding up a mirror and making us feel kind of stupid or bad. Right.
Yeah.
Wah,
I mean,
wah.
it's your ego for sure.
Yeah. Wah, wah. And then the final thing is the hardest, I think, disservice is when we actually were completely blindsided by something. And I call these the biggest disservices. My favorite one is with estheticians when I ask them if they include the neck and décolleté or an eye treatment in services. And they're like, no, I charge extra for that. And I'm like, okay. So when you were a kid, if your parents didn't ask you to floss your teeth and you didn't, do you think you'd have good teeth right now? And a lot of people are like, I don't floss. And I'm like, is it because your parents didn't tell you to? It's because your parents didn't make you. They just made you brush your teeth, right? Right. Your parents did you a serious disservice, right? Because they didn't make you do it, right? As estheticians, we have huge gaping disservices because we don't force people to do things that are good for them, right? And it's just an industry standard. Doesn't mean it's right. Right? Doesn't mean it's right. It's still a disservice, right? We get our oil changed in our car because we're supposed to, but if nobody told us to, we wouldn't. And that would be
The
a disservice.
car's supposed to tell you to.
Right? So there are these big gaping disservices that happen because we just don't think we should, we don't know we should, or it's not an industry standard, but everyone else would be like, oh, but I do that. And you're like, right, because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
So looking at your business, Alex, is there anything that you maybe didn't do before, but you kind of do now?
Why, yes, there is.
Yeah, I bet there is.
Yeah. So, I mean, that feedback came through and then I had to think about it because I'm like, I don't want to give one-to-ones for everybody because I mean, it's a low cost membership. I'm not doing one-to-ones for $67 a month.
No.
Like that's just not happening. So let me think about it. Let me get into that introspective stage and really figure out how it could fit into my business model in a way that makes me feel good, but also serves my clients. So what I created was basically another group coaching call. So once a month we get together. It is exclusive to people who have crossed that 4-month mark so that we're not just answering the same basic questions. And I bring you up on camera and you get to answer your question. And then added to that as well, because I'm like, here's another thing we can add, another value add that won't take more of my time because we're doing it on the call, is the opportunity to submit videos. So if there's some movement you're working on, submit that video. We'll go over it in the call. I'll talk you through what I see and what I think you should do because of that. So they basically get what I do for my one-on-one clients, but in a group so that they can have new ideas and get that one-on-one feedback. And just anytime you can talk to somebody, it's just a much better experience.
Absolutely. Right.
0 people have complained about that of the people who come to it. I mean, there's always going to be people. The weird thing in a membership, you'll find there's people who you're never going to hear from. They never come to anything, but they keep on paying. So it's like, okay, whatever. But the people who show up and engage, like they enjoy it.
Right on. See, so there you go. So think about for everyone who's listening, how that applies to you, because there is a nugget of that is going to apply to you, however it is, whether it's that you need to do a annual check-in a quarterly check-in for people. There is something that you're doing, because especially in business, we kind of get lazy, right? We kind of just go on
Yeah.
autopilot. And that's where disservice happens. When we're just kind of like, I just let that go because I'm not paying attention anymore. And I'm not thinking about ways to improve, help my clients more and get better at what I'm doing. Right? When we're not thinking about that, that's where disservice happens, in those quiet, lazy moments.
Yeah, but where's the line between lazy and just being like way overly productive and perfectionistic and overachiever and trying to drive yourself into the ground?
Well, that's driving yourself into the ground. But, luckily, I do find that clients kind of keep us on our toes, but once again, it's those complaints that shake us up and help us become better businesses. Right?
It's so
Now,
true.
to not have complaints, we do have to kind of shake ourselves up. So it's always good, in my opinion, that you look at your business. I look at my business every 2 years. I give it a really hard look. That's why I change my menu up every 2 years. I try to redo my website every 2 years, because it keeps it fresh and it keeps you re-looking at your stuff. Right? It keeps you,
Especially with digital stuff, it's so easy to just create something and then let it go, and then you go look at it later and you're like, so you need to have that just
right.
in the flow.
Right. And even on a regular business, get on your bed, guys, lie down, look up. Are there cobwebs places that you didn't notice? Look, be your client for a second, walk in and do the same thing. Do the pathway journey that you would go and do. Sit on the toilet the same way they would. Do all the things, put the gown on, do all the things, because you will notice things you did not notice before. Right?
That's a really, really great point, especially just laying on the bed, because how often do we put ourselves in our client's shoes?
Right.
The same thing happens for me too, of the tech experience and walking people
check out
through
the
that.
shopping cart all the way through. Actually buy a good and pay the money with the credit card.
Yep.
Right? Same thing.
All those things. Yeah. No, super, super, super important.
Yeah. So when we're talking about, we're about to talk about the really hard things. Talking about bad reviews. Okay. So I don't know. Do you get bad reviews at all? You don't live in the land of Yelp at all, but do you get bad reviews? Do you have to worry about that?
Yeah, I don't do Yelp a ton. It's sort of the last negative thing I can think about is some dickhead on social media.
Right. So social, sometimes we get some bad social. Yeah. You get the trolls, right?
Yeah.
You get the trolls.
Yeah.
I remember that one too, by the way. We talked about it. We have a whole episode about
Screenshot
trolls.
it and sent it to you. Fuck this guy.
Right. So guys, when we get bad Yelp reviews, and we've had a couple of conversations about these before, they are important to note, right? They are complaints. We're not going to go specifically into Yelp and Yelp reviews, but understand that bad Yelp reviews or bad reviews in general, there is always what I consider, first of all, you're going to go through the criticism, right? You're going to go through, you're going to go through it. It's going to happen.
Anger, sadness, friendship, introspection.
Right? You're going to go through it. It's going to be okay. I always find that there is a kernel to be learned, even from the craziest review. You're like, that person is crazy. It's actually the craziest reviews that you are going to find a kernel of truth to learn from. Okay? Sit down with that review a week later and just think about it from the other person's perspective. Okay? Now, of course, you're going to have the ones where it was a person who, just hated you and they're from some other spa or something. And
you're like, I must be doing it right if I piss them off.
Right. But if that person really came in and they really saw you and they gave you a 2-star review. In fact, it's the 3-star reviews that you're like, what? Okay. Right.
I just gave somebody a 3-star review. I felt really bad about it, but
right. That 3-star review is the hardest. You're like, it was just kind of mediocre, right? You're like,
it wasn't terrible, but I have better things to do.
I know. It's really hard for me to give a 3-star review. I'm always like, I'd rather give I'll hedge to the 4 and write a 3-star review. To me to actually give a 3-star review, I'm like, I feel sad, but here, 3 stars. I gotta be honest. So when you get those reviews, first of all, don't go talking to the person. right? Don't go and talk, don't drop them an email, whatever.
No.
Don't do it,
No.
right? But look at that review a week later and think about what you can learn from it. What did they say that maybe you can take to heart and change? Otherwise, look at it and be like, you know what? I can sit with this review. I'm okay with it. And then if you want to, respond to it. I'm firmly in the camp that I don't respond to reviews.
Okay, I was like, oh God, no.
But there are times where there are times where like responding to review is perfectly fine. Like
I just thinking too of like the Yelp like train wrecks where the owner responds and you're like, oh my God, you shouldn't have said anything. This is trash. Don't be like that person.
There is like you're either in two camps. You either respond to every single review, good and bad. Like there's two ways. You respond to every single review, good or bad. Thank you so much for the review. No matter how it is, you respond to every review, good or bad, or you don't respond to any reviews. Okay, that is my opinion on reviewing. Right.
Well, okay. What do you think about this response though? Because there's an app that I use for therapy. It sucks. It's terrible. They respond to every negative feedback and just say, oh, but this is like how it is essentially their feedback.
No.
Thank you. I was like, what? No, fix the problem.
That is the worst. That is the worst. I truly believe that if you want to respond to negative reviews, you have to respond to every single review you get. And there is a lot of data that shows that you should respond to every single review. Like that is the way you're supposed to be doing it. I have no time for that crap.
No,
I got no time. So like, I just respond to none. And I actually don't really read my reviews very much. I have to have somebody tell me about a review to go read it. So like, I'll have a client
good to put that filter though.
Yeah. So I have a client be like, Sybil, did you see your review? And I'm like, what review? And they're like, did you see the review from the lady who said, I'm like, what?
Not her. No. And you already know who it is, huh?
Yeah. I'm like, oh God. So, but
oh no.
No, really. But that's how it is. And I did book reviews for years and years and years. And one of the authors one time said, she's like, I discovered years ago just not to read my reviews. Because if they're good reviews, I'm like, oh my God. And if they're bad reviews, I'm like, I'm not a God. Fuck those people. And I felt exactly the same. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm just not reading my reviews. You're very wise.
Yes. Well, I think it's a better thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially, to put some distance between yourself. And I think reviews too are a little bit different than someone who's like coming into your spa and has taken the time to like give you that feedback.
Right.
There's not all types of feedback and criticism are weighted equally.
That is correct. That is exactly right. Alex puts exactly the weighted amount that we need to have on it. Not all reviews or criticism are weighted correctly. Somebody who's actually a client, who's been a client for a while, their opinion matters so deeply to me and should matter the same to you. Somebody who's been here like once, I don't know you. Your opinion probably doesn't matter too much. But like I said, there's usually a kernel that you can gain from that might change what you do that matters to everybody else. It's possible, right? I'm looking at what we're doing right now. I'm looking at where we are we've gone through a bunch of it.
Yeah, we have. Well, I think too, I want to think about and get your opinion. Like, where is the line between changing yourself to keep your clients and still being authentically who you are?
That is a decision that you ultimately make yourself, because that we've done lots of episodes in confidence. This comes down to, I think, three things. One, your persona. Who your persona is. And this is why I do believe that we have to have a bit of a persona. Yeah. Because you kind of do wrap yourself in that persona a little bit. And you're like, okay, I've embraced this as part of my persona. And I'm okay with that. Right? That is authentically the persona that I'm putting on whilst as in this room as myself to keep me protected and insulated. Right? Yeah. And a little bit of a distance from who I really am. I also think that you make a decision based on your confidence level, right? Because sometimes you are going to get a complaint and you might know that you're going to get that complaint all the time from a certain kind of person, but you're like, that's okay. You are not my client.
Right.
You're never going to be my client. And this part of my persona is to stop you from coming and being my client.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is to weed you out.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Sybil, you're too expensive. Awesome. Bye-bye.
That's so true. Yeah. I know for me as well, it's like, oh, if you want someone who's like more serious, like I'm obviously not your person.
Right. Right. I mean, I used to get reviews a lot. Like, she is too expensive. They hadn't even seen me. I would just get reviews. I looked her up and she's too expensive.
Oh my God. I love those reviews. I mean, someone else also, not a customer, was like, well, if you lowered the price $20 to $30, then I would consider it. And I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm not a $7 churn gym. That's not who I am.
Right. I'm not for you. Thank you so much for letting everyone else know that also I'm not for them. Bye-bye. Right. But thank you for doing my due diligence and also bringing down my ratings. Bye-bye.
Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, then you go and you talk to your good clients and you're like, hey, can you help me out? Someone just left this like awful review.
Exactly. You're like, thank you so much. And over time you get less and less of those because those people don't even find you because you're not even in their search parameters anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think kind of the third thing that will happen is that you will build up the right kind of clients who also will talk to you and trust you enough to tell you what's going on. Right. And so that is the most important thing. And that's why we talked about last episode with attrition is that you have to listen to those clients when they do give you the feedback. And I do like to call it feedback more than complaints. So I often talk about it as feedback. It will still feel like complaints. In my head, it'll be like, they're complaining at me. But I'm like, thank you for the feedback. I'm dying inside.
I don't even just dying. Like thinking of asking for feedback is like making me warm. Like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, nothing will make me cry in my car faster than when I feel like I've let somebody down. Right? And feedback will absolutely do that to you. It is okay that you feel that way. It means that you're very good at your job. It really does. If you're like, oh, thanks so much, and then you like went about your business and just didn't care, you're probably not very good at your job. Right? It's okay. Now, if you take it to heart and then it eats away at your soul, you might need to do a little rethink about like what Alex journaling, seeing a therapist, talking to a friend.
Yeah. I think there definitely is like that middle ground where it's like, okay, I can hear this, but I'm not taking it personally, but I am listening because I am my business and I do want to make it improved, like dancing over that line where, I mean, really, I guess it's having a healthy relationship with being able to receive feedback.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, this was a lot.
So much.
This was a lot. This was a lot. So I hope everyone has found today useful and that they have found ways to use feedback and maybe not seen it as complaints.
A stabbing dagger to the heart. I'm like, no!
Because we've all felt that way. We have.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. And like you were saying too, if you like your business and you care about your business, like this happens. And it's just a part of being a better business owner. Just, come on.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is.
So
and if you feel terrible, it's okay. You'll feel better later.
But first, fuck them all. No, Don't do that. So we want to hear from you about feedback, right? And have you experienced the stages of criticism, receival? And how did you deal with it? Maybe even like you got a terrible piece of feedback and you dealt with it terribly. Like just tell us all of your confessions. Please, please, please. There's no judgment here. As I have already admitted to, I'm a terrible person. So come hit us up on social. You can find the show at Skinfessional. Sybil is at Your Skin Fitness Expert, and I am at Hala Famala. Or you can give us a ring-a-ling-a-ding-a-jing into our box. What?
Yeah, dude. It's a box. It is at 818-473-5277. And by the way, this phrase of the season right now is get vaxxed, get waxed. So like our box is hot right now.
Hot girl summer. Here we go.
So until next week,
keep your secrets to yourself.
unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.